Welcome back inside the Mental Takedown podcast. Usually, when I go on these long hiatuses, it's usually because I'm busy and lazy and sometimes forget that I still run this thing. But every once in a while, I'll come across a story that jolts me back into action because of how inspiring the story is, and I can't bother but to find out more. None could be more than the case than today's guest, Brent Moore, who's been through hell and back and been up and down 2-3 roller coasters to finally finish out one more season at the University of Clarion. We'll let Brent take the story from here, and as always, see you on the other side of this amazing episode. Joining me now is Clarion's new and improved Brent Moore coming back after a 2-year hiatus, yeah? Or
Yep,
is it 3 now?
two. Yeah.
2-year hiatus. So I guess uh since we've last seen or heard from you, what have you been up to?
Well, I when I stopped wrestling at Virginia Tech, I kind of stayed in Blacksburg for a few months. Um, and then I ended up moving back home with my parents for a few months back home in Ohio. And I was working for my dad, just kind of getting things straight. I wasn't taking any classes or anything. I was just working and saving my money. And then I decided to start taking visits to schools again. I entered the transfer portal last spring, and I talked to a couple schools, and obviously made my decision to continue my wrestling career at Clarion. So I've been living in Clarion now for ever since June, probably mid June. So I've been here for several months, just getting acclimated, getting back on the mat, getting back to feeling good. So it's kind of a brief overview, I guess, of where I've been over the past few months.
Now, you've pretty much wrestled your entire kind of amateur and scholastic career, and kind of obviously when you first kind of took your hiatus, it was purely a personal decision. I'm wondering, like, as the world has obviously changed just outside of the mat since you last wrestled, how has kind of what started as a personal decision and then compounded with everything that's happened, not only to you, but to maybe other people around you, how that has affected you and kind of your perspective on that?
Um, I think that a little bit of a break was good. I think that my relationship with wrestling, that last half season that I wrestled at Tech, my relationship with wrestling was not very good. I didn't love wrestling. I didn't look forward to going to practice, and you know, it was just I had a bad relationship with the sport. So now that I'm now that I had a chance to step away from it, and I didn't think I would miss it, and I thought I was ready to be done, which obviously is not true because I'm back doing it again, and I'm loving it now as much as I ever have in my life, and I'm wrestling at least as good as I ever have in my life. Um, and I think I've gained a lot of perspective between being a little bit older and being able to look at wrestling kind of from like a third party perspective. It was my first time ever looking at wrestling from the outside in. But I realized what I missed, and I consider myself very fortunate to have the opportunity to have another year to compete, and I'm thankful to have a school that believes in me enough to have me as a part of their program. And I just think the situation overall has worked out in my favor very well, and is very exciting as well. So
No, no, you obviously have a brother that has kind of stayed within the wrestling realm this whole entire time. Were you completely detached from that when you were not involved in wrestling, or were you kind of never fully on hiatus? You know what I mean?
oh no, there was uh, so it was really honestly like a year and a half between when I stopped wrestling at Tech to when I entered the transfer portal. And I'd say for that year and a half, like that entire time, I probably only got on the mat like 5 or 6 times total before I started training again over the course of a year and a half. So, I mean, if that's not a hiatus, then I don't know what is. I was like straight up just not wrestling anymore. So, yeah.
And so did you when did you kind of first begin to feel that you had lost grips or touch kind of with something that had been a part of you for probably since very, very young?
Um, well, I got neck surgery back in 2018, and I had to take like a full year off. Like I was still a part of Virginia Tech's team, and I was still part of the team, but like when you can't wrestle and you can't do the same thing that the rest of the team is doing, you kind of like grow apart from the guys that you form this bond over going to practice together every day and going through the same hell that you go through hell together, and you become really strong friends through that. And after having a year where I wasn't going through it with my team, I kind of felt like I drifted apart. And when I finally did come back to wrestling, I just didn't feel like I had, I almost felt like an imposter in that room. I just didn't feel close to my teammates. I didn't feel close to the coaches. And, it was just a bad look all around for me. And over time, I think I just fell out of love with it. And that's not even, touching on the fact that I wasn't really wrestling my strongest because I was, fresh off of a neck surgery. So, it was a bad situation for me in a lot of different ways. And it's nobody's fault. I don't think, this isn't me like trying to put it on my teammates or on my old coaches and stuff. Like, things happen the way that they happen. And now I'm like, I think that everything happens for a reason. And I think that I'm meant to be where I was always meant to be, like right now, like I think that it worked out really well for all parties involved. So, there's no hard feelings at all. Things happened how they happened. And, I'm not worried about any of that. All I'm worried about is, having some success of my own this year.
I'm wondering what the process was like to kind of come to initially when it first happened, how you came to kind of come to accept that a part of your identity or wrestling as you knew it, certainly before the neck surgery, wasn't there anymore.
Well, I didn't, when I got neck surgery, I was still like, I always still fully intended on wrestling again. And like I came back for half a season. The half season that I wrestled was the first season I came back after my neck surgery. So that's, I guess what I'm trying to say is it's like my neck surgery didn't really stop me from wrestling or play that much of a part in me, like being done wrestling. Just, it was a culmination of all these things that, was really weighing on my mental health between, not wrestling my best and not having a good relationship with my coaches, not, feeling like I belonged on the team. And, I was struggling in my classes at the time just because I was struggling to get out of bed, honestly. Like there was just so much going on that I wasn't succeeding on the mat. And like, yeah, I got a big win over Sammy Sasso, but like, other than that, that year was pretty, it left a lot to be desired. We'll just say that. I wasn't wrestling to my ability. I was barely beating kids that I should have been stomping, and I was losing to kids that I should have been beating. So, I kind of had to sit down with my head coach at the time, and we agreed that, wrestling just might not be the best thing for me right now, and I just need to worry about graduating. And they handled it really well. They offered to let me they offered to honor my scholarship, and not let me, and like they offered to let me not be on the team anymore and to honor my scholarship so I could still go to Virginia Tech and, finish my degree. But at that time, my mental health was just so poor that I just needed to be done with Virginia Tech completely and just worry about being happy. And, ultimately that's what I did.
Now, I'm wondering, like, once if neck surgery certainly wasn't the reason, and it's always kind of like I feel like wrestlers, at least from the ones that I've talked to, it's like you get a diagnosis that's like I'll be back in 8 months per se, and you're like, okay, well I'm gonna do it in 6, right?
Yeah.
That like there's always kind of this, well, I don't want to say invincibility, but almost like this, well, I'm gonna be the fastest one ever to come back from said injury. I'm wondering if at this point when you were out and you were kind of keeping everything to yourself, because I certainly at that point, all of this you've talked about this now, the time I was wondering kind of what the outside noise and kind of the wrestling media kind of contingent, which I don't consider myself to be a part of, by the way, is relatively small. I was wondering what kind of like outside noise and if that kind of compounded the issue at all.
Um, Not really. I mean, no, I don't really think that had a ton to do with it. I mean, seeing myself ranked, like, I think when I stopped wrestling, I was ranked like 21st in the country, and I knew that I was better than that. You know, just seeing my ranking lower than where I thought that I was capable of being, that sucks. But at the same time, it's like I was wrestling like I was ranked 20th. You know, I it's like I can't be mad at them for ranking me that low when that's how I was wrestling. It all kind of just falls back on me, and I can't say that any of the wrestling media had a big, I wouldn't say any of that compounded on me and made me feel worse than I already did.
Okay, then at at what point was it? At what point was it kind of? Did you realize that wrestling kind of needed to take a backseat entirely?
Um, when I wrestled at Vegas, the Cliff Keen Invitational in 2019, I think it was, I didn't even qualify for the second day. I lost to two kids, or I lost to Sammy Sasso at that tournament, which was a week or two after I pinned him at Ohio State. I lost to Sammy Sasso, and then I got beat out by a kid from Wyoming in the round to qualify for the second day. So I didn't qualify for the second day. And during that tournament, I beat several kids, like barely, that I should have probably beat pretty good. Um, and I remember when I came off the mat after I got eliminated, Coach Roby came up. I talked to Coach Roby shortly after that match, and we talked about like having a meeting in his room and potentially taking a break from wrestling, just stepping away from wrestling for like a week and just kind of reset and refocus. So when we got back to Blacksburg after the Cliff Keen, I had a meeting with him and we talked about it, and I took a week off like had mentioned. And he said, and I think that he basically told me that if I think that I need to be done with wrestling for the time being, then that's fine, and that they would still honor my scholarship. And I took that week off, and we reconvened the next week, and I told him that I didn't think I wanted to do it anymore, and I didn't think that it was in my best interest. Coach Roby and I were close, so I was at Tech, and he knows that he knew how I felt about wrestling, and that it was something I was passionate about. And to see me struggling like that, I think he knew that um, that was a pretty solid indicator that I was not in a good place. And wrestling isn't everything, so I decided that it's time to hang it up.
Well, I guess at that point you had kind of described, I think the word you used in the Fanko article, and if anyone who hasn't read that yet should definitely go check that out. I think that was written by one of your former teammates. Were there any teammates that kind of stuck out that you remember that kind of stuck by your side through that you still remained close with and kind of opened up to during that time?
Yeah, I have several former teammates at Virginia Tech that I still talk to pretty regularly. Um, my old roommate at the time, actually, his name was Kyle Nordstrom. Um, he actually had the exact same surgery as me, and unfortunately, his surgery, um, he had complications with his surgery, and it ended a lot worse for him than it did for me. Um, but if anybody understands what I went through, we had the exact same surgery. It caused him to be done with wrestling. Um, Kyle has always been there for me. He's an outstanding friend. Um, Joey Prada is another friend of mine who I'm very close with. I still talk to on a normal basis. Both Dom and Sam Latona were both teammates of mine at Virginia Tech, and they're still great friends of mine. I still talk to both of them and their family. Um, you know, I like I said, there's no hard feelings with anybody at Virginia Tech. I think that holding a grudge wouldn't be the healthiest thing for me. And I think that it's just that's just part of healing. Like we just forgive, and things happen the way that they happen, and it just there's no hard feelings.
Yeah. Now, from an outsider's perspective, is kind of the camaraderie, especially like outside of kind of like your star wrestlers on a team that make the posters, and I don't know, even the guys that don't wrestle at the duels, the 20 other guys on the roster that don't make the starting lineup, is that kind of element of wrestling kind of overlooked?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot that the fans don't see in terms of culture, I guess. Um, and I think every team has guys that they're not necessarily starters, but they're part of what makes a team as good as they are. We had guys like that at Virginia Tech when I was there, and we have guys on the team like that at Clarion now. Like, I mean, I'm a hard worker. I'll go shot for shot with anybody when it comes to hard work, but I got guys that on the team at Clarion right now that'll work a circle around me, and they might not see the starting lineup all year. But that's just indicative of our culture. And, I think a lot of teams have guys like that. Um, but yeah, I think that's definitely something that's overlooked, and something that the fans don't get to see a lot of.
I guess now that you're back and you've gone through, I don't know what the right term is. It's not just one ringer, probably two ringers.
Yeah.
Um, but what is kind of your newfound role, as far as, since you stressed earlier, and kind of what kind of pulled you away from wrestling was the kind of lack thereof of camaraderie, and like what is kind of your new role or the new way that you approach things on your new team?
Um, I try and set an example of, being a hard worker, doing all the right things. You know, I I tr- I I try and be an example, because I think that there are some guys on our team who don't know what it takes to succeed on the next level. And I think, I'm not going to sit here and act like I've had the most success or even, a satisfying amount of success, at the Division I level. Obviously, if I was satisfied, I wouldn't be back. But I think that I know what it takes to be successful. And I think that I fill a leadership role on our team as, I think I'm the oldest guy on our roster right now, which is kind of funny because everybody calls me grandpa. But I think that there are guys on the team that look up to me. And it's because I work hard. I'm always on time. I'm doing the right things when it's time to practice. I'm getting focused. I'm not messing around. And yeah, I think that not a lot, but I think that there's a good chunk of the guys at our program now that, look up to me, and I like feeling like I'm looked up to. It makes me feel like I have shoes to fill when I show up. I like feeling like I'm kind of like a coach and, kind of like one of the guys at the same time. So
Now, have you given much thought into kind of post-career coaching possibilities?
yeah, I honestly, coaching wrestling is probably the thing I'm most passionate about. I love wrestling. I think I have a great mind for the sport of wrestling. I think my understanding of wrestling is very, very thorough. You know, that, you know, I don't really want to get too wrapped up in where I'm going to coach or, how that's going to work. I think that I want to put some more accomplishments up on my resume before my wrestling career is over, in hopes that I could, because I would like to coach at the Division I level. And I don't know if my resume will get me there, how it sits. So right now I'm worried about how high I can get on the podium in March. And then, when all that dust settles, then, if Cale Sanderson wants to give me a call, then he can give me a call.
Oh, well, oh my gosh, that last line was so great. Now I just lost my train of thought. Jeez. And you delivered it with such, no change in tone of voice. Just
That's because I mean it.
there you go. There you go. Well, so, oh gosh, I really did lose my entire train of thought. No, you're, oh my gosh. Okay. This part will not be edited out. I'm already like, this show is already full of clips. If you look back in the archives, this show is already full of me, like full of clips, me making an absolute fool out of myself. So once you're a senior and you're about to graduate, and I always like to end on a fun one, and since apparently I can't speak English anymore and our half an hour is almost up, who is going to fill your shoes as best mustache on the team once you're either in a coaching role or
I can,
graduated for good?
I can't, in good faith, I cannot take I would take the title of second best mustache on the team, but it would be wrong of me to not give credit to Cam Pine, who is going to be our 65-pounder this year. He's got a better stash than me right now, and he's had a better stash than me for months. What you see going on right here is just me trying to play catch up with Cam's greatness. We've got. I was just saying today in the practice room. That's actually funny that you bring this up, but I was just talking to one of my coaches today about how we've got like 7 or 8 guys on the team right now that have got their mustaches looking prime because we're taking our headshots tomorrow, actually. So a lot of guys are in final mustache form right now. But yeah, Cam Pine is definitely best mustache on the team. So
Does he give you a hard time about it?
no, he's a good sport. I think he knows that he's got the best stash, so he doesn't give anybody a hard time. When you're at the top, you don't really need to waste time arguing with guys like me.
Fair enough. You've been more than generous with your time, and I hope I hope the fairy tale has about as good as an ending as you want it to. I really do. And
I appreciate that, man.
I really do wish that, more people would, come out and, say the things that you have said and be as open as it is, because, you guys are not, a wrestling lineup of 10 is not an interchangeable, Rubik's Cube. It's 10 people with 10 lives and infinite number of battles to fight.
Yeah.
So, wish you all the best. I will be watching all the way until the end, all the way until Nationals, and wherever you go beyond this year. I'm sure Kale will give you a call eventually.
Cool. I'm looking forward to his call. And I appreciate that. That really means a lot, man. Thank you.
Thank you. Take it easy now. You have a
Yep,
good night.
you too, brother.
Once again, hope you enjoyed the latest installment of the Mental Takedown, and hope you enjoyed my new setup and my new expensive $75 microphone. It is a great story and lesson to learn that everyone to tell your story to anyone and everyone that may listen, because you never know how that may affect the person you're telling the story to, and that ultimately is the only purpose of wrestling media. Hope you enjoyed. If you did enjoy the episode, please leave a like, do all the creator stuff. We're all on your favorite social media platforms. I've been gaining Instagram followers just randomly during this hiatus, and I don't understand why, but thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and I hope to find more inspiring stories soon as well. Thank you to Brent, and go kick some ass this final go around.